Welcome to SEC After Dark. I am your host, Stephen Willis. Having a good time as always. Alongside Jeb Beecham, we're going to talk about SEC football. Corey, as you can see from that letter B, is brought to you by the Count. No, he has a mouse in his house, and he'll be along with us shortly. So, how you doing, Jeb?
Doing pretty good. Upgraded my equipment a bit. Hopefully it sounds a little better than it did last week.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Today on the show, we are going to talk about Haynes King winning the job at Texas A&M. That announcement was made. We will laugh at the alliance and the little setup they have going up, and we'll go kind of around the SEC, check in on the Tennessee quarterback race, check in on the South Carolina quarterback race, and see how things are going. I do want to remind you, you can follow me at the Stephen Willis or at Old Positively. You can catch us on Facebook at facebook.com/Pomcast. And of course, you can hit us up on YouTube, Positively Ole Miss. Subscribe, hit the bell. You'll not just know that we're streaming, you'll know what we're streaming about. And of course, you can catch us on Twitch at Positively Ole Miss. If audio is more of your bag, you can catch us on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and Pandora. We're also on several smaller podcatchers, but if we named them all, it'd take the whole show, and we can't, take time doing that. Also, we want to remind you, if you want to comment on the show, the easiest way to do that is just comment on the live stream, whether in YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. It will appear on our line. We'll be able to see it, and we'll be able to interact, and you'll be able to have your say on this show. And also join our Patreon. $3. That's all it costs. And you get exclusive shows like Pomcast Extra, Reb Calls. And today we debuted our commitment spotlight videos where we talk about the commitments that come in. So that was a good deal. We're trying to make it a little bit worth money, but the money is to ensure that shows like this one, SEC After Dark, and the Pomcast Beast of the East and Best of the West remain free. So, Jeb, before we get started, I know it's new. We kind of got rushed into it last week. What are you looking for among this football season? What are you looking forward to after what we went through last year?
Tennessee winning the East. I think. No.
Okay.
No, I just want football to get kind of back to normal. Last season there was so much drama around COVID, and it doesn't look like it's slowing down a whole lot right now. It just hasn't affected football as much this time around so far. I'd really like to see that just stay out of it altogether. That would be great. Allow us to actually play a normal schedule. The SEC pretty much played, what they were going to do anyway, so it didn't affect us in the SEC quite as much. But I don't like the other conferences not getting their games in, because we need to have our bowl games at the end of the season where we go and beat the other conferences and remind them that they're not nearly as good as we are. It's just not as much fun if they didn't get to play.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's a lot of fun. And also this year, it seems like, other than Matt Corral at Ole Miss, it seems like an abundance of quarterbacks, new quarterbacks in the SEC this year. And you have several competitions. Like Alabama's breaking in a new quarterback. They're preseason number 1. Texas A&M's breaking in a new quarterback. They're preseason number 6. Georgia, their quarterback had exactly 4 starts last year, or maybe 5 starts. It was less than half of the season. And Corey is dealing with a mouse problem at his house and will be in shortly. He's not going to do that, but we wanted to start the show because it was going to take a little bit of time. So he'll be in. He's going to join us. So there's a lot of stuff going on with quarterbacks. And historically in college football, the return and stability at the quarterback position is a prerequisite for success. But now, 1 out of the top 5 is returning its starter. And that's Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma. And that's probably the reason I give the edge to Oklahoma as the preseason number 1. I don't know if they'll be there at the end, but right now they're there.
It is pretty surprising for teams to be rated that high, I guess, with the instability of quarterback. But I think it just shows how well some of these teams like Alabama and Texas A&M are built, that the quarterback is, while always important, isn't going to make or break their team, at least not in the eyes of the preseason rankings. We'll see how they do during the season, obviously. But it also, I think, speaks to the level of talent that those teams are recruiting. That you figure no matter whoever wins that position is going to be a great player. So again, you just never know what's going to happen when the season starts. But
yeah, it's a lot of stuff. And Texas A&M, Haynes King won their quarterback job. Jimbo Fisher announced that today, going into he's going to take the first snap essentially against I don't know. I think they play Toledo or somebody in the first game. I don't know. Just forgive me for not knowing who they play, but it's a game they should win. So he's going to take the first snap. That instability, their preseason ranking of number 6, that they're going in with, it just makes me nervous. It just makes me nervous what's going on, that you just don't know what he's going to. Maybe I'm just burnt by Jeremy Johnson or at Auburn and all that's going down, and I just don't know. I just don't trust quarterbacks until I see them. Now, like players like Bryce Young and Haynes King, they're probably going to be fine. Understand what I'm saying. My trepidation is not because I expect them to truly struggle. It is because there's a chance of blowback. It's one of those things like there's a 90% chance you're going to be really good. Well, there's still a 10% chance you're going to flame out. And until I see the guy, I'm going to wonder, is that 10%? Is that 30%? Is it a 50-50 proposition? And that's probably the reason I'm not so eager to crown Texas A&M. All the talent in the world. 21 out of 22 positions, they're exactly where you want to be. But for the other one, show me. Alabama, same position. Show me.
I can actually understand that, just because all that talent is, when you're talking about the top, 5, 6, 7 teams, all that talent is pretty close everywhere. So it wouldn't take much for a quarterback, not much growing pains for them to lose a crucial game somewhere in there and just kind of tumble down the list that it's hard to get back up to the top of, because all those teams are so good. So I could see that. I could see with either one of them. I could see Alabama's quarterback, playing, well, but maybe not having a great game here or there and losing a game they shouldn't. I could see the same thing with A&M, definitely. If Haynes King takes a little while to actually get going, it may just be too late because there's such little separation there with those teams. So yeah, I can definitely understand being nervous.
And it's vamp for a little bit. Let me bring Corey in because Corey is here. There is Senior Burton. All right, we're going to bring you in live, Corey, just so you know.
I need him in the B slot.
There we go. And here we go. There's Corey. We're already live. We're talking about Haynes King at Texas A&M, Corey, and that announcement being made.
Yes, not surprising.
Yeah. We actually had it on the Tweets After Dark last week. We kind of did a Nostradamus thing with all that going on with Haynes King, and we're kind of doing the same thing this week, where we're tweeting about Joe Milton is going to win the Tennessee job. Sam Adams, very good, and of course, you know me, I'm on brand. And what are you drinking, Jeb?
I know it's a brown ale, Marlboro from Cigar City Brewing. Don't know much about it, but it's not bad. It's growing on me anyway. The more I drink of it.
Yeah, we're doing craft beers now, Corey. You're a little bit late, and we just completely changed our MO.
It's just a random one I found in the fridge.
You guys go off brand for a minute, man.
Yeah, Jake was really worried about you, and now he's really excited about you being here.
Yeah. What's up, Jake? How you doing, buddy?
He said he has a mouse you can borrow.
Oh, good. Apparently, I have one he can borrow too.
Yeah.
So Haynes King, hail to the king, right?
Hail to the king.
The king of College Station. So it's very exciting. I'm glad they picked a quarterback. I'm not surprised whatsoever. So I think that was the right choice. He's got all the tools you want as a starting quarterback in this league. I think he's going to be the guy that makes this offense go. I think he's, I think he has potential to be Kellen Mond plus some extra stuff.
Yeah, and what's the classification of Haynes? How has he been there?
That's a good question. I knew you were going to ask me that, and I'm going to look that up for you. I think A redshirt freshman?
Yeah, I figured he was a young guy because the research that I did on it, I just didn't quite see the year of the player. So I am curious about that.
He's a redshirt freshman. I was exactly right.
Okay, that's why you're here.
That's why I'm here. That hot take was the summer ale hot take. So
now oh yeah, look by the way below you.
oh yeah.
Yeah, we're going big time, and once that becomes SEC centric next week, that'll be up, and I think we're going to, once we get going, put our picks in that window as well, so that'll be rotated through, so everybody can know what we picked.
There you go, man. Yeah, this tweets after dark things looks legit. This setup is awesome, man. The chat box looks awesome. Our 3-shot looks awesome with the tweets in the 4th box, man, and our picks, the picks that you shouldn't take that I'm going to give you.
Yeah,
you know how that goes. So
yeah, it's pretty good. I'm pretty excited about definitely the tweets after dark and the chat and the Vegas line from Vegas Insider. By the way, I know you guys use BetAG on your
.ag.
Yeah. You can pitch those if you want to, but that's just where I've got the lines from. I need an easy way to get the lines, and I'm not a member of the Believe Network, so I don't have access to get that.
Well, you can go to the website and sign up today and get your 50% welcome bonus.
There you go. It feels like you've said that before, haven't you?
I've said it a couple of times. I know Jake has too. So
appreciate it, Jake. Really do appreciate it.
You are a wizard. You are the capital W wizard. So.
Yeah. Speaking of that, we're going to move on to the Alliance because the only thing that pops into my head is that scene from Arrested Development where the magicians are there and there's like a wizard and a clown and Job holding a sign that says, "We demand to be taken seriously." That's all I can think of when I think of the Alliance in the Big 12, Pac-12, and ACC. Yesterday we discovered that there's not really a scheduling thing right now. There's going to do something down the line, maybe, possibly. They might vote on stuff and they care about things that they already cared about. Really what is going on, in my opinion, what is going on with this alliance and the whole thing is this is a ploy from Fox to try to destabilize the ACC, to get their hands on it, and to try and get into the college football playoff. They want to break up ESPN as much as possible. But I hate to break it to these guys. ESPN is in the Mountain West. They're in the WAC. They're in the Mid-American Conference. They're in the Sun Belt. They're in Conference USA. They're in the American. Those are the conferences that are going to decide the playoffs need to be expanded. It's not going to be the Big Ten, the Pac-12, or the ACC, even the SEC. It's going to be those Group of 5 conferences because they want to get paid too, and open it up will mean their guys have a chance to get in it.
Yeah, it will. This alliance, man. Jake, you said it best, man. The alliance, the synonym for that is, it's a joke. It's a joke. It's hilarious. Like it's a lame attempt at getting back at the SEC for adding Oklahoma and Texas, and it's just everybody is mad. The Big Ten, like, I don't get the Big Ten all in this because, they're a pretty prestigious conference in their own right. I mean,
they're solid number 2.
They don't need this stuff. Like Pac-12 maybe because they need some sort of gimmick. The Big 12 needs anything they can get their hands on.
They need a respirator.
Yes, they need more than that. The ACC, they were.
Yeah, I mean,
they
got one in the New Year's Six last year in Clemson, so one in the playoff. They're fine where they are right now.
Yeah, and they've they said, hey, we're going to dominate basketball, which they don't even do that anymore. The SEC's dominating basketball too, so it's weird. It's just a weird response to the SEC expansion. Like, they come together like, we're going to form an alliance. We're going to take you down. You're not going to take down the SEC. People try to do that with the NFL. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, and you look at – it's so performative too because everything's against the SEC aggression. But the Big 12 is not a part of this alliance. The Big 12 still exists. They're ready for the Big 12 to die just like the everybody else is. And every one of those conferences would have said immediately yes if Texas and Oklahoma wanted to join their league. So all of this is performative. They're trying to win the breakup.
They are. It's ridiculous, Jeb. It's absolutely ridiculous. I can't, I just laugh every time I see. When it first came up that they were going to form an alliance, I just died laughing. And now that they're going through with it, I'm like, wait, they were actually serious.
I don't know. I'm glad, Steve, that you had some opinion on what exactly it's going to do, because I don't understand, and this is coming again from somebody with no real inside knowledge. I don't understand what the alliance does right now, other than saying we have an alliance. I mean, they're going to get together and vote on issues before they go to the NCAA to vote on them as a unified whole, maybe? I have no idea.
This
it doesn't seem to actually have any teeth.
NCAA is dying.
Yeah.
That might be true.
Yeah, if you want to look at the purity of the game and everything that's going on with the Austin stuff and the NCAA dying, this could be an attempt to kind of have their say.
Alliance calling.
Yeah, have their say of what's going to happen in the ashes after the NCAA burns to the ground. But they don't want the SEC to rule everything. But I hate to break it to everybody. The SEC could form an alliance with the American Conference, the Sun Belt, and Conference USA and do twice as much damage as being done by an alliance between the Pac-12, the Big Ten, and the ACC.
Yeah, they really could.
Mm-hmm.
They really could. It's ridiculous. Like because all of those Conference USA schools, especially the Sun Belt schools, that would be the conference. Like if the SEC wanted to pair up with a Group of 5 conference, like that would be the first conference I call, because that is, there's a lot of great Southern schools in that conference, like Appalachian State and Georgia Southern. Those are two former FCS powerhouses, and you get those programs on board with your quote alliance, you're in good shape. So really what needs to happen is the NCAA needs to kick rocks. All the power, the P5 needs to break away, have its own commissioner, and just go. And just go.
I think that the FBS needs to break away. And I have a thought that the SEC should basically, through expansion, and now hear me out, through expansion, get the American, the Sun Belt, and Conference USA. Also get 4 teams from the dying Big 12. Go get Oklahoma State, go get Kansas, go get Texas Tech, go get TCU. And even though they're in the same giant league, you divide it up into 12-team divisions.
Oh, I know where you're going here.
Mm-hmm. And you do promotion and relegation between those schools. So there'll be no Vanderbilt in the future. Sorry, Vanderbilt. You can get your stuff together and be fine in this system, but you're going to have to get your stuff together, because the last 2 teams are going to play off against the top 2 teams of the division below them for the right to play in the upper division the next year. And so you're going to have a playoff at the top for the national championship. You're going to have a relegation playoff where the first and second place teams of each division play the last place 2 teams for the right to play in the upper division. And you're going to do that all the way down, and it would make the SEC would print its own money and would make March Madness look small.
That would be, Dane Young from UJSports.com and I talked about this a while ago, how they should just blow everything up and say, let's do promotion relegation, let's get as many teams involved, and here we go. Everyone partner with a Group of 5, and let's rock and roll with promotion and relegation, because that would be awesome. Can you imagine South Carolina sitting there at the end of the season? They're in the relegation zone, and their fans are worried, and you have Georgia Southern just kicking ass in the Sun Belt, and they're looking for promotion, and they jump into the SEC next year. Like, how awesome would that be?
Yeah, where you can play. And basically you need all those teams in one tent. You need a 55-team super conference under one thing. We'll call it the SEC. And then you can have divisions. And you're just moving up between divisions. The divisions are the only thing that aren't locked in. Yes, they do that in football overseas, and that is the one really cool thing about it. In some cases, the relegation fight supersedes the fight for a championship in soccer overseas.
Yeah, it's insane. Like in England, it's a huge deal, especially in the championship league. I think that's what they still call it, right?
Yeah.
Like these fans of like Norwich City, Queens Park, and Crystal Palace, and those teams that are always kind of up and down. They're always going crazy on that promotion relegation, man. It's so awesome. I'm with you, Steve. If you want to become the czar of college football, come on, man. I'm with you on that.
Absolutely, and I would do that formula. Like, let's say there's 45 teams doing it in the Southeast. There should be 45 teams doing it in the Northeast, 45 teams in the Midwest, 45 teams on the West Coast. And the winners of each of those things play for a national championship. 4 teams.
There you go.
You got playoffs all over the country, playoffs for divisions. Everybody's going in the postseason, and it comes.
So essentially, you get your 8 rounds because you play within your subdivisions. Like you have your subdivisions within, like, so you have the SEC and your subdivisions, and the winners of each subdivision play each other. I guess if you had 4 subdivisions, you would have those 4 champions play each other in a short 4-team playoff, and you would have that kind of system all around the country, and then you go. And then you also have the same thing for promotion relegation in each conference. You have the 4 teams playing each other to see who gets promoted and who gets relegated.
Yeah, I mean, it basically would make December and early January the most crazy thing in college sports. It would trump March Madness the first round instantly.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you this, Jeb, I don't watch bowl games anymore, man. They're most of them are boring.
Well,
you know what? Yeah, I'm sorry, Jeb. One thing's for sure, now that NIL is a thing and people are getting paid and everything, I have no sympathy for anybody wanting to opt out of a bowl game. Period.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about it anymore. And I am normally very pro player, but now you basically just made this professional sports. And all the things that have gone on, freedom of movement, you can get paid. The only thing that changes other than the NFL is where the check is coming from. That's the only thing.
I got to tell you, as a fan, my gut reaction is when I first heard this, I don't like that. I don't want that to happen. That might be because my team is struggling right now. But I got to tell you, the more I think about it, the more I think that's actually a pretty fascinating concept. Because you're right, it would make bowl games a lot more interesting if your team could actually be relegated if you don't win. Or if you're, of course, fighting to go to the national championship. It also might make it easier for smaller schools to retain good coaches when they find them. They go out and find these great coaches, and those coaches could actually move them up in divisions to make them better, more, I don't want to say better schools, but, more important in the college football atmosphere.
More prestige.
So, more prestige.
You jump into the, to borrow a term from Europe, you jump into the Premier League.
Yeah, no, that's actually really interesting. I honestly have not thought about this before, but I like it.
Yeah, whenever we look at the rubble of what the NCAA is going to eventually become, it's kind of important that we look outside the box and don't just look at a linear thing that people normally think like next exit ramp only on an interstate. That's as far as they're willing to go. And there needs to be true outside the box thinking, or this thing is just going to slowly go a different direction. And in 20 years, the unintended consequences are just going to bite us. If we take this drastic step, I think it will be entertaining to the point where it will save college sports and really draw interest to the college game that wasn't already there.
It also makes me wonder with teams like now, because again, I'm going to put this in terms of thinking of Tennessee, just because that's my team. Teams that are struggling like Tennessee has these last few years, I wonder if that would actually make it easier. If they move down, they would have less pressure So it might make it easier to find a
Oh
coach,
no!
give them
Oh
time.
no! Can you imagine Tennessee if they get relegated?
Oh,
Can
I
you
can imagine
imagine?
our fans. Yes,
Can you
that
imagine the pressure to get back up into the Premier?
that's a good point. Yeah,
Like if you're Georgia Southern and you go up and then you get relegated back down the next season, it's no skin off your back, right?
yeah.
Because you're not supposed to be there in the first place. But if you're freaking Tennessee, that's a different story. That would be like Arsenal, who's struggling right now in the Premier League, I think, right, Steve?
Yeah.
Arsenal, who's struggling, getting relegated. If Arsenal were to ever get relegated, that would be like Tennessee getting relegated. It's a huge deal.
Well, I assume whoever was coaching them would be immediately fired. Yes.
Can you imagine if Alabama got relegated? Because it would happen.
Oh my God! Can you imagine Alabama in the Sun Belt?
Wow.
Alabama traveling to Arkansas State to play Butch Jones.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Alabama versus Butch Jones. Oh.
Yeah.
I forgot about Butch Jones being at Arkansas State. I don't know why I forget about that over and over again.
Because you want to.
But the thing that would happen is like somebody like Billy Napier at Louisiana, there's a legit purpose that he could stay there because in 4 years there's a chance that he could be up in the Premier Division and be with the big boys. And the University of Louisiana could be like where they always want it to be and what they think of themselves by calling themselves the University of Louisiana. I mean, it's all fascinating, and there's so many storylines that can be written if people would just lay off the protection that they have. Like Ole Miss and State, God bless them, but there's too many people that think, well, they don't recognize that they're only in the position they are because of the good fortune of who they chose in 1933.
Yeah.
That's the only reason they're not Southern Miss right now. And if you take that into account, this relegation system, it keeps you at the party, keeps everything going on, but allows you to really compete. Whenever they go up at, whenever they go to 2014 and 2015 levels, all of a sudden they're at the top of the Premier League, they're doing whatever. But in 2011, they went 2-10. They're probably going down to the championship if they do that. It's going to prevent that crater from happening.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I mean, Vanderbilt would immediately get relegated, and then they would probably be the team that gets promoted and relegated in football. But they'd be the top of the Premier in baseball. Like they'd win the championship every year. But South Carolina would be up and down. I think Mississippi State would probably be that team that's up and down. Arkansas would probably be that team that's up and down. Those schools would be, back and forth, and you would trade places with teams like Tulsa. You would trade places with teams like Memphis or, Georgia Southern, App State, those type schools.
LSU and Tulane, or could become a thing again, because the game for the rag used to be all kinds of heated. It was a heated rivalry back in the day when Tulane was a member of the SEC. And then whenever they left, all of a sudden, it just kind of dissipated. It kind of went the same way as Alabama and Georgia Tech when Georgia Tech left. A lot of people don't know. Georgia Tech is in Alabama's fight song.
That's pretty. That's a fun fact. It's going to win you a trivia contest at some point. So mark that down. Write that down in your marble notebook.
Send those yellow jackets to a watery grave.
That's right. Jake is all about sending some yellow jackets into a watery grave. He's singing right now. That's why he's not typing anything. You got him riled up with the fight song.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Well, let's move on around the SEC. Corey, what have you heard from the Tennessee job, quarterback job? What's going on there?
I mean, Joe Milton is the guy, and he's earned it, quite frankly. I mean, he's doing everything. He's showing out in the scrimmages. He is definitely definitely showing that he is improved and he's taken to coaching, and that actually, beyond popular belief, he actually fits into the Josh Heupel system, I think.
Yeah, I believe so too. I want to see. I mean, the funny thing is that when this all started, whenever we were talking back in July, before anything took off, we were like, oh, Harrison Bailey reminds me of Dylan Gabriel. He's probably going to be the guy moving forward. And then Joe Milton.
Guy going transfer portal.
Yeah. And Joe Milton looks like a linebacker, but he appears to fit that system. And I'm beginning to wonder if that offense won't look a little bit different than it did at Central Florida.
It's got to. He hasn't had anybody that can run this well and is this big and jacked. So it's got to look different. It can't look the same as it did at UCF because the speed is just too good in the SEC to have an offense like that. You have to tweak it to kind of fit the conference. But man, it's like we were pretty spot on with Ole Miss's offense, Steve, you and I. But when it came to Josh Heupel's quarterback situation, I was way off. I'll be honest, I was way off. I wasn't a believer in Joe Milton. I was a believer in Harrison Bailey. I thought he was the best fit. I thought even Hendon Hooker was a decent fit. Not once did I think Joe Milton. It didn't make sense to me when they accepted Joe Milton, but obviously they saw something that I didn't. So I guess hats off to them.
Yeah, I was right there with you. I honestly thought Harrison Bailey was the best fit early on, and then I wasn't too sure about Joe Milton. I didn't know much about him, but the more I looked up, the more I thought he probably is not going to win this job. But he has completely changed my mind these last few weeks. Everything we've seen, everything that's been coming out of camps, and everything that's been happening there, he definitely looks like he is taking over, and I'm excited.
Well, now here's the question we have to ask ourselves with Joe Milton: was the problem at Michigan him? Or was it Jim Harbaugh?
It must have been Jim Harbaugh.
Mm-hmm.
That makes more sense now. Because he walks in and just grabs the starting job by the horns, right? Mm-hmm. And, it's crazy, how easily he came in and won this job. How just he comes in and it's almost like it was a competition, obviously, but it was almost like he just took it and ran with it.
Yeah, he came in and just took the Michigan job last year too. That's the same thing as when he started on opening day. He was like, who is this guy? And then,
and you struggle and you're like, who is this guy?
Yeah, and that offense was a little bit of that Joe Moorhead, James Franklin, Penn State stuff. They brought it down.
Offense was a mess. Gaddis was. I thought Gaddis was better than that. And maybe Harbaugh's meddling. Maybe there's something going on with that.
Harbaugh's absolutely meddling. He's absolutely meddling.
Gaddis was better than that. Yes. Yeah.
When he was a wide receiver coach at Alabama, and he got hired as an offensive coordinator at Michigan, and then all of a sudden Joe Milton comes in, and you expect it to be a little bit different, but there's a learning curve that happens with a coach. There's a learning curve that happens with the quarterback, and maybe he didn't fit that system, that RPO system.
I thought he was going to come in he kind of had a little bit of. I mean, Tracy McSorley has a ton of moxie. Don't get me wrong. I'm not comparing him to Tracy McSorley by any stretch, but I thought he was going to come in and kind of be that Tracy McSorley guy that can run some quarterback read game stuff, some RPO, and just kind of do a little bit of everything, really, really well, and really just get that offense going because they had Zach Charbonnet, they had some weapons in Nico Collins and. Joe Milton was going to be the swing guy, but he struggled, man. And he struggled against some pretty, it was head scratching because there were some defenses there that I thought would just be highlight reel worthy and really wasn't. I mean, a lot of people struggle against Wisconsin's defense. They're pretty good. Jimmy Leonard is one of the rising stars in the coaching ranks in the country, but you got, obviously everybody struggles against Ohio State, so you throw those two games out, everybody's going to struggle. And I don't think he did that poorly against Wisconsin in the first place. I thought the defense was horrendous against Wisconsin, but it's just weird, man. It's weird. I just didn't. He wasn't a good fit. Gaddis wasn't a good fit for Harbaugh. That whole thing up there at Michigan is a total mess.
It's a tire fire.
That's
I
being
mean,
nice.
Yeah,
That's being nice.
It's absolutely weird. They're not going to catch it. Yeah, they're not. Yeah, on Big Ten After Dark, they're not going to catch Ohio State. Ohio State isn't in their zip code at this point. Now they need to. Now they need to worry about catching Indiana.
It's the Alliance After Dark. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Alliance After Dark. That just sounds lame. Michigan is. I don't get it, man. Like, how is Harbaugh still?
Michigan. Sorry, Jeb. Michigan, Tennessee, and Nebraska. They're all the same program. It's like 1999. Their program just stopped.
Jeb, I got your back. I take Tennessee over those other two programs in a heartbeat.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome. I don't dish that out very often. So there you go.
Yeah, and by the way, Jeb, me and Corey were talking about the most important thing with Tennessee is recruiting the Atlanta area, and tell them why that's important now.
Well, they got Rodney Garner, so it's gonna happen. But Atlanta's just packed, man, and Georgia can't sign them all. Georgia Tech definitely can't sign them to begin with, so somebody's got to sign them, right? Why not let it be Tennessee? There's 150 SEC prospects in the Atlanta area. You can only sign 25, so go get them.
I think Atlanta's closer than Memphis, so I understand.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. Also, let's move over to South Carolina. They are not. Hey, look at that! Look at that! Yeah, very funny, Jack. They have not named their quarterback moving forward at this point.
Why is it not Gaudier?
Or Moore? I think his name's Moore.
It's just going to be Colton Gaudier.
Yeah.
Gaudier, whatever his name is.
But Doty's in a walking boot. Do they want to see if that boot comes off and do a couple of days? I mean, it's just a weird situation in South Carolina. This job, they should just name it, don't worry about it, and just go.
Jeb, I'm gonna let you take this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna apologize. I don't know much about this competition.
Well,
neither does most of the SEC.
Exactly. Gaudier is everything I've ever looked at when I glance at the South Carolina news feed is like, and you hear South Carolina fans talk. He's the guy. Like that's the dude, right? And we know what Doty has. He has a full season. He did beat out the Malinsky kid, which was kind of impressive. But that was the most pitiful run of South Carolina football I've ever seen last year. And Luke Doty was the quarterback. So, I mean, I'm not trying to make connections here.
Well, Luke Doty became the quarterback after Muschamp got fired. He played a little bit against Ole Miss in the clipboard game, but after that game is when the change was made. Whenever Bobo took over, it was. He's not a thrower. That's the problem with him. Luke Doty is not a thrower of the football, and in modern college football, that is, I don't know about that.
Kentucky's like, come on, man, you got to get better at the forward pass.
Yeah, you need to be like us.
Yeah.
You see our offensive coordinator, our shiny new quarterback, Will Levis.
He's from the NFL.
Oh, yes. Look at this. We just waved all kind of pixie dust of throwing the forward pass all over our team. And the youngest stadium, which Kroger Field, by the way, is the youngest field in the SEC, is going to light up the scoreboard. The air raid is coming back. Isn't it hard to believe? They brought the air raid. They basically invented the air raid in major college football. Tim Couch and Mike Leach and all those guys throwing the ball around, and you basically just run the single wing for 3 years. They just regressed so much from what they were. It's kind of funny. I mean, J-Lode played there, the Pillsbury throw boy.
He did.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Yes. Just watching them year to year to year just get worse and worse and worse in passing. That's not like Kentucky. And Kentucky used to be really fun to watch, even though they weren't really going to win much, but they were fun to watch. And now they're boring.
Yeah.
But with this guy, Liam Cohen, maybe they're not going to be boring again.
Yeah. They used to have Tim Couch, Derek Abney, Craig East, and just throwing the ball all over the field and having a good time to do it. I mean, they might lose the game, but they might lose 63-56, and that was in 1997. You know, I mean, that was just a completely different time. It was like unlike anything we'd ever seen. Now we just call that football, but you know, back then it was really strange.
Yeah, it was, because everybody was in an eye. The SEC was still kind of even like split backs, and you know, like the pro system of like the near and the far offset backs, and almost wing T ish, you know, like pro style wing T almost, like with some of the formations. So it was crazy, man, and everybody was like, "Who's this? Kentucky? What are you doing?"
Yeah, they put the sirens in there that they still use, which is hilarious with the Terry Wilson teams not being able to throw the football. The air raid sirens going off whenever they get a first down. It's just utterly ridiculous. But, you know, good for them. They've rediscovered the forward pass, apparently. Will Levis, you know, we talked about him last week. He's going to be a great quarterback for them. Now, have you heard anything else? What's going on in Georgia? Give us an update on them.
Well, the second scrimmage took place. Israel and I did a show last night, actually, and talked about the scrimmage and some guys that were showing out. You know, the Darnell Washington is he's going to be out for about 6 weeks. He had surgery on his knee, and so he's going to be out for a little while. So there's some question marks at tight ends. I'm not worried about the tight end position because I think Brock Bowers, John Fitzpatrick, and Rylan Good is going to be a good enough answer at that position. Like Brock Bowers has been absolutely outstanding, and but I think some of these receivers and you know, going like 20 personnel with Zamir and James Cook, you'll probably see that a little more often early on. You know, the offensive line position, they're really desperately trying to move Jamar Sawyer, who's on the preseason coaches All-SEC team. They're trying desperately to move him inside the guard to his natural position, but they're just not there yet. So he's going to start at left tackle. Defensively, obviously, a couple banged up injuries to Darian Kendrick and Tyke Smith. Those guys are going through some nicks and bruises, but most of the injuries, knock on wood, I don't say minor, but they're not major either. Like if this were a game week, you know, 3/4 of them would probably be able to play. So it's you know, good times there in Athens. The defense is really showing out. The offense, there's even more clues.
Really?
There's even more clues that Kirby is cutting it loose.
Okay. I'm going to hold you to that.
You will.
Yeah.
You'll see it next week.
Yeah. Ole Miss second scrimmage, the defense actually won. There's several number changes, as you would expect. Otis Reese changed from 26 to 3. Jake Springer changed from 39 to 1. There's a whole bunch of games being played in the preseason just to basically make the film and everything looking at it useless. I think numbers and position changes every week. So Lane Kiffin is actually playing games. Matt Corral is, according to everybody this fall camp, just completely taken another step. They didn't know that he would be able to do that, but I mean, he really looks good this fall camp. So I'm looking forward to what they can do against Louisville. I'm looking forward to which wide receivers play and how they line up and how they use the backs and the slot and John Rice and everybody moving around. I'm real curious about that as well.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. Like I was kind of curious on how this whole Matt Corral and the offense was going to progress even more. Like, how can they? What are some things that they're doing to be able to top what they did last year? Because you know teams are going to have answers. So, how are they going to answer the answers, right? How are they going to counter the answers that these other teams are going to have that have had a full year now of Lane Kiffin's system? So that's probably the biggest question offensively for Ole Miss. Defensively is the playmakers, and who are some guys that are emerging now that weren't quite emerging earlier in camp. Like, who are those guys?
Players that are emerging. Henry Parrish is having a good camp, a really good camp. The offensive line, they got a grad transfer this week from somebody named Jordan something. I just forgot his name. Offensive line, Orlando Amana. The offensive line is doing really quite well. But defensively are players that are emerging, like the Jake Springers, the Otis Reese. Otis Reese is probably the best player on the team.
Otis, my man Reese.
Yeah. Keydron Smith moved back to free safety, played for cornerback for 3 years at Ole Miss. And that is, to me, a sign that the players that they brought in on signing day, the big, tall, rangy guys, they're obviously making some noise on the outside. And Chance Campbell, of course, transferring from Maryland. The middle of the defense, and I like to, on my show, talk about the spine of the defense, to use a soccer term. It's really with the interior defensive tackles, the middle linebacker, all three safeties. It's all new. They changed them all out. And the defense, because of that, is going to look pretty good because, as we've talked about several times, the middle of the field is where modern football is played.
Yes, it really is, and that's where RPOs are attacking the spine of the defense, as you say. I say the cylinder, but the spine of the defense, the cylinder of the defense. That's where most of your action's happening. If you can hold those guys in place, then you're going to be pretty good because it's all about holding those guys in place and forcing them to think a little bit and to play a step slow so that you can create matchups and numbers out on the perimeter.
Yeah, and the beauty of this offense, and you'll see it this year as well, Jeb, with what Josh Heupel is doing. This offense tortures linebackers. So there's going to be some jet movement before the snap designed to get the linebackers to false step to whichever direction it's going. And then in the middle, they're not going to be able to fit their gap, so the inside zone's there. So that's an option. And then if that doesn't work, my favorite triple option is coming off of those two. You can pull the ball and go off the back end of the defense to where it looks really interesting and really fun. But once the linebackers start creeping up to fit because they're so messed up, all of a sudden that space right behind them, whenever this free safety is deeper than the deepest and the linebackers are 3 yards from the line of scrimmage, that space is going to naturally open up. And you can attack that, and that's the reason the tight ends and the slot receivers do so well in this offense, and they will in the Josh Heupel offense as well.
No doubt. Yeah, Jeb, I know you're excited about Josh Heupel. They got an endorsement recently from the greatest Vol of them all, Peyton Manning.
Yeah, I saw that. And the coaches aren't telling us a lot from camps, just from what's going on. But it does seem to be, I don't know. It's exciting just having a new coach and a new system, and one that I think will bring some excitement. And I kind of think we feel like Ole Miss probably felt last year with Lane Kiffin coming in and being something different that you knew was going to be kind of exciting to watch. We're still going to have our problems. I know depth is going to be a big part of it. Pass rush, I haven't really heard too much about what's going on with our pass rushers, so that worries me a little bit. But they've got some pieces in different places. I think Tennessee will play well. It's just it'll be one of those things like the last few years where they may play well early on in the game and then just kind of fade away in the end because of the lack of depth. But it still should be fun to see if their offense can maybe put some points on the board and at least put pressure on other teams and make it fun to watch.
Yeah, it should be. That should be the goal. And there is an opportunity for Tennessee to probably get 6. It'll be important for them to win that Pittsburgh game early on. They need to go 4-0 in the non-conference to have any shot at a bowl game. And then you got Vanderbilt and you have South Carolina. Win those games. Take care of business there, and you can get to 6. There's a pathway. But that Pittsburgh game, I think, is going to be the seminal moment for Tennessee this season.
Absolutely. That's the game I'm looking forward to most early on.
Yeah, I mean, that's a team when I'm on another podcast called Illegal Motion, and we did our conference previews, and we did the ACC early on, and Pittsburgh is a team that defensively they are stout. Well, they're always stout. Pat Narduzzi's going to make sure they're stout. Offensively is kind of where they struggle. They have a decent quarterback, but they don't have much else. So it's kind of like almost a one-sided team there that's going to force you into a phone booth and try to beat you 10-7. So for Tennessee in that game, to give an early preview, if they can turn that into a track meet, Jed, that game could go in Tennessee's favor very easily.
Yeah, I think that'll give us an early indication of just how well coaches on game day in Tennessee. So if he can find ways to score there, like you said, actually look good offensively, then I'll be a lot more encouraged to how this season's going to go.
Yeah, if they go 5-7 even this season, do not judge Josh Heupel. Yeah. Basically, everything that happened last year to this year, I mean, it'd be a 5-7 would be a good season. 6-6 would be, hey, you can do something special.
6-6 would be coach of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, losing the amount of talent we lost this season, just to people going, seniors, and then also to the transfer portal, which just killed us.
It's insane, and as a Georgia fan, I kind of liked it, but just as a pundit here, I've been watching Ted Lasso. As a pundit here on SEC After Dark, it's insane to think about what Tennessee is facing despite losing all of that stuff. So if they can go 6-6, that would be a miracle.
All right. I know there's no SEC games this weekend, but with week 0 coming up, my game of the week is probably the Nebraska Illinois game. Burt back coaching.
Birdie.
Mm-hmm. And Nebraska opened up as a 9.5-point favorite. That line has dropped to 7 points. Do you think there's any chance of Illinois being able to jump up and get Scott Frost? I mean, if that happens, that's the end of Scott Frost right now. He might as well not even coach out the rest of the year. I mean, that's fine.
I mean, I'm not against it. I think this line's dropping for a reason. It opened at almost 10. Now it's dropped 3 full points. That's a lot in Vegas when you think about it, especially with a supposed talent disparity between Illinois and Nebraska. I kind of like the Illini here. I think I might take the points in the Illini. I think Illinois has a really good shot at winning this thing outright.
Is that where Bilma went?
Yeah.
Brett Bilma?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about, Burt. We just call him Burt instead of Brett.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering what you were talking about. Yeah, no, actually, and he's a good coach, so
Wisconsin,
I don't know. I
do the same thing. It's hilarious.
I could see Illinois coming in and taking that one.
Yeah.
He's a good coach, just wasn't fit at Arkansas at all.
Yeah, I agree.
Also, the other game, UCLA versus Hawaii, open up UCLA by 11. That line has jumped to 17. That's a huge jump.
UCLA is nasty, dude. I think they got 10 of 11 starters coming back offensively, 9 on defense. It's going to be like Dorian Thompson-Robinson is it wouldn't shock me. I think there's some other players that I think might get it ahead of him, but it would not shock me if he was Pac-12 Player of the Year. I mean, he is good, and he's got experience. And Chip Kelly's finally got the pieces that he needs, and he's got the experience on the offensive line.
So LSU comes into town next week.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, on Fox.
It's a road game for the Tigers.
And 2 time zone jump or 3 time zone jump.
Yeah, 2 time zone. I don't know about slam dunking LSU in that game. Like before I really dove into UCLA, I thought it was going to be a slam dunk. I was like, well, it'll be an interesting game, but it'll be ultimately a slam dunk for LSU. I don't think that. I don't think so at all. That's going to be a battle.
Chip Kelly having a quarterback he can really trust, that's dangerous. So it could be a lot of fun to watch too.
Jake, the problem with Hawaii is now the coach is Todd Graham instead of Nick Rolovich before that, and I forget who the coach was that was scoring all the points before that. I think June Jones was there, so it's not really doing that. It's more of a normal spread offense like you would expect, and Todd Graham is a defensive coach. So I'm not real quick to think of them in the
it's a weird fit.
run and shoot. Yeah, it's a weird thing. But I am looking forward to seeing UCLA on the nightcap, and I'm looking forward to watching Nebraska in the early game. And honestly, if you guys want to watch some solid high school football, UConn's playing Saturday.
Wait, I thought you said solid high school football. If I want solid high school football, I'll just watch actual high school football. Like IMG, whoever they're playing. I know they're on TV somewhere.
Yeah, probably. Well, let's get out of here. Thank you guys for coming around today. We had a lot of fun, and we will do it again next week. Next week, we'll do a preview of the weekend's games. We'll have actually stuff to talk about. We can get into the meat of it after talking about the same thing over and over again. We'll do our picks. We'll have the lines for the weekend. All the stuff you can see here and all the stuff we've been building to starts next week. I think next week we might take phone calls as well.
Oh, phone calls.
Yes.
Who was the dude? Who was the dude that asked for help on week 0? There you go. So pick against me, and you might be okay.
Yeah. He asked last week. He popped up last week, so
Okay.
he's obviously concerned about week 0.
He
But
wants to make some money.
my rule on anything betting is take whoever's playing UConn and the points, and you'll be all right.
That one shouldn't be tough.
Yeah. So, all right. For Corey and Jeb, I am Steve. We will be back next week to talk more about that. Remember, tomorrow, a special Beast of the East with Craig Ladd and Corey Burton. We're going to do that about 8:30-ish if no rodents appear. And, yeah, and we'll do the podcast tomorrow and Friday as well. But we'll start to move into game week. So for them, I'm Stephen Willis. Have a good one.
Goodbye.
Good night.
Cheers.